I'm going to start with an instrument. You see all of these percussion instruments that I brought with me. I'm going to ask for your help in a little bit to help us play. But I wanted to start with an instrument that's very quiet. So I'm going to need your help to listen carefully to this instrument. Now what I want to do today is we're going to take a musical journey around the world. And this instrument is going to begin our journey in the country of Zimbabwe. Does anybody know where Zimbabwe is? What continent is Zimbabwe? Yes, Zimbabwe is in South Africa. This instrument, some people call it a thumb piano. Still can't figure out why. Does it sound like a piano to you? Yeah, a little bit. But I play it mostly with just my thumbs. And the real name for this instrument is mbira. Can you say mbira? Mbira! Mbira means voice. And the second part is zavazimu. That means of the ancestors. Now each key represents a member of the family or the tribe. This would represent the father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, aunts and uncles. What do you think the small ones are? Those are the kids. And so, just like we can't play a song with just a single voice or a single note, when I ask you to help me to play all the percussion instruments, we're all going to have a percussion voice. And so we're going to have to work together. Instead of playing just our voice, we're all going to work together to use our voices to play beautiful music. Now, my name is Jeff Holland, and I am a multi-ethnic percussionist, Multi means more than one. Ethnic ethnic means culture or heritage, and percussion are the type of instruments I play. Now, who can name a percussion instrument? Can you name one? Drums. That's the first thing that always comes to mind. Can you name another? Cymbals, another family of percussion. Maracas, good. Another. A tuba? No, a tuba is a brass instrument. A piano is a percussion instrument because it has a hammer inside that strikes the string. No, a violin is a stringed instrument. A drum. One more. A tambourine. Good. So we named maracas. We named tambourines. We forgot one of the most popular ones is this. What's this shape? A triangle. What if I hold it like this? It's still a triangle. Now sometimes they use this in a symphony orchestra just to play a light, dainty note. But in Brazil, they play it like this. In a rhythm called samba, and that's going to be our finale. That's going to be one of the rhythms we play. Now there are a lot of different types of instruments that I brought with me, and instead of talking about all of the instruments individual, I've traveled the world and started just about at your age or even younger. I started getting interested in percussion and started taking drum lessons, and then when I got to be a little bit older than you, I started thinking, well, where did drums come from? And I started tracing them back into different parts of the world. And our theme this week is Make a Splash, Read. Have you heard that theme a lot this week? I think it carries through the summer, doesn't it? This is the whole summer theme. And so my splash was this journey around the world. I started researching where did these drums come from, and I found more drums and more percussion instruments. And so nowadays when somebody asks me, Mr. Holland, what do you play? I tell them anything you can shake, rattle, scrape, or roll. Now let me show you what I mean by that. I brought a couple of interesting types of shakers. And there are a lot of different types of shakers that we'll talk about today, but these are made from a plant material, and these are made from an animal material. Now what do you think these are? Nutshells, exactly. And then they dry them out, they poke a little hole, put them on a string, and it becomes a percussion instrument. Now, this is from something from an animal. What do you think these are? Bear claws, teeth, shark teeth? No. A smaller animal, but it has pretty big toes. That's a hint. What do you think? Not a turtle. Yeah, I've seen some turtles with big claws. What do you think? Armadillo? No. They're from a goat. I found these from Morocco and these in Chile, South America. And as they fall off, the dancers collect them and they put them on a little string and then use them as bracelets, and they use them as anklets when they're dancing. And that way when they're moving, whatever dance they're doing, you can hear the rhythm of the shakers. So that's shake. This is the rattle part. Now what does that sound like? A rattlesnake. I know, that's one of those sounds that we don't want to hear in nature around us. This is a bean from Peru. And as the bean dries out, the pod dries out, they put a band around it. You know, a bean would split open, but when it fully dries out with the band, those are the peas that rattle inside. So somebody found this laying under a tree and they thought, that'll make an interesting percussion instrument. We're going to go on a found sound treasure hunt in a little bit to find our instrument. So we'll see what kind of sounds we can find. Now for the scrape, or the rub part of playing percussion, what does this look like? See the little ridges on the back? I'm going to rub a stick across the ridges and let's see if we can make it sound like a frog. Does that sound like a frog to you? Now if that frog has that voice, what do you think this frog is going to have? Do you think it's going to be higher or lower? Let's find out. It sounds low, like a bullfrog. Now, if bigger instruments or larger instruments sound lower, what do you think this little frog is going to have? high voice. It's a tiny sound. Now, somebody tell me, how does a cricket make, or a grasshopper make its sound? The wings are the legs. There's little ridges on the back of their legs, and when they scrape those together, now, as a percussionist, we're always looking and listening for new sounds, and we're inspired by sounds in nature. There's music around us all the time. I want you to use your imagination a little bit and think you're sitting in your backyard and you're surrounded by crickets. Did it sound like crickets to you? Yes. So as a percussionist, I do a lot more than just play drums. A lot of the times people ask me to make special sounds. For instance, sometimes we try to make sounds in nature. These sounds are around us all the time, but would you consider this to be music? Yes, beautiful bird sounds. What about this bird? Or here's one of my favorites. Oh, I have one of those too. So a lot of different percussion sounds are inspired through nature. Sometimes we start to make the instruments. What does that sound like? Ocean waves, yeah. Now you can make one of these at home if you want to. This is a big one, but all you have to do is take 2 paper plates, put one down, put rice or beans, something dry inside, something dry and hard inside, put the other paper plate on top and tape it up or staple around the edges, and then you balance it in the middle, and then just slowly sway back and forth like the ocean waves. So, we're going to talk about some other found sounds in a little bit, but I want to get to play, don't you? Are you ready to play? Yeah! So, let's play with the instruments that you brought with you first. Everybody bring their percussion instruments? No, I thought we were all going to play together. They told me to bring my instruments. I'm just teasing. I know you brought your instruments because I can see them. Body percussion is one of the first ways that we teach some of the percussion rhythms. Now, what am I forgetting? We said shake, rattle, scrape, or how do we play a drum? Beat, hit, strike, bang. Give me the fastest drum roll that you can. Let me hear it. Wow, warm your hands up. Really fast, and stop. Nice, good job. I'm gonna play one of my drums that doesn't look like a drum. I was sitting on it. Sometimes people think this is just my seat, but I asked my students, do you think I can fit my drum set in this little box? A huge, big drum set. They go, Mr. Holland, that's a little tiny box, and a drum set is not going to fit into that. But let's see if I can get the sounds of a drum set out of it. Not bad for a little old box, is it? Thank you. That's another one of those found sounds. This is an instrument actually called a cajon. And they used these as they found shipping boxes that had come across the seas, and they've been on a boat bouncing back and forth in the waves. And you know what would happen is the cargo would make the box loose on the edges. And so it's not connected on the edges, so when I play right on the corner, I get a high sound. And then when I use the soft part of the palm of my hand in the center, I get the bass sound. And so, depending on how we play it, we're always looking for a low and a high sound. Now, I said we were going to do some body percussion, so here's our first rhythm. It goes like this. Everybody ready? See if you can get it the very first time. Who thinks they got the whole thing the first time? Really? It's pretty hard to learn that long of a pattern. Some of the patterns that we're going to play today are pretty difficult, but I'm going to use musical sentences to make them a little bit easier. I'm going to do it again and listen this time to the sentence and the rhythm. I'm happy, I'm excited, and I'm glad to be here. Does that make it easier? So let's break it down in pieces. I'm happy is going to be 1 tap and 2 claps. I'm excited will be 2 taps and 2 claps. And I'm glad to be here will be 3 taps and 3 claps. You want to try it with me? Stand up in your spot carefully. Okay. So let's try I'm happy. Ready, go. I'm happy. The second part, I'm excited. I'm excited, and I'm glad to be here. And I'm glad to be here. Now, in just a second, I want to try it from the top, and let's put it all together. But this requires 2 things. Number 1, you're going to hear me say this a lot. If you can say it, you can play it. Say that for me. If you can say it, you can play it. And that's true. If you can speak a rhythm, then you can probably play that rhythm. Now, let me see the biggest smiles you can send me. These are happy sentences. Let's try it from the top. Ready, go. I'm happy, I'm excited, and I'm glad to be here. Good job. Can we do it a little faster? And what about a little louder? Can you do it louder for me? Ready, go. I'm glad to be here. One more time, really fast. Ready, go. I'm happy, I'm excited, and I'm glad to be here. Good job. Give yourselves a big round of applause. Have a seat. Now, I told you that we were going on a musical journey, and I want to show you a few other instruments. And watch carefully how I play some of these instruments in order to where you'll know that how to play them when we get to pick the instruments. This instrument, we're moving from South Africa up into Central Africa. And this is an instrument called a talking drum. Now, they use this instrument sometimes to send signals. And so they can actually send messages through this, kind of like an early telephone. I'm going to try to talk to you through this and see if you understand what I say. Ready? Yeah. Wow. So you can understand the language of the drum already? Now, every drum, every percussion instrument has a different language. Some are very simple. Some of the very first rhythms were played on log drums, and some of these log drums were as big as a tree. Of course, I couldn't bring a whole tree into the library, so I brought a small drum, a small version with me, and this is actually made out of a type of wood that's hollow. What kind of wood do you think it is? Hollow tree? So, bamboo. This is called a tongue drum. They cut out a piece in the shape of a tongue, and it makes different sounds when you play it different places. So we have very simple instruments, and then the most popular instrument from West Africa is called djembe. Can you say that? Djembe has three special sounds. If I play it in the center, it's a very low sound. On the edge, medium, and then with my fingertips, a very high sound. Now, one of my teachers was Babatundola Tunji, and he taught me the language of this drum. And of course, he made me say over and over, if you can say it, you can say it. Good. So, I want you to help me with the language of this drum. When I play it in the middle, I'm going to say goon and doon. So when I say goon, doon, I want you to tap your belly and as low and deep as you can go goon, doon. Ready? Goon, doon, goon, doon. Now, when I play play it on the edge, that sound's going to be go, do, 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 go, do. And one more. Pa, ta, pa, ta, pa, ta, pa, ta, pa, ta, pa, ta, pa, ta. Now let's see if we can put them together in a rhythm. I'll play it on the drum first, and I'll play it with you on the body percussion. Ready? It goes. Goon, doon, go, do, pa, ta. Goon, doon, go, do, pa, ta. Goon, doon, go, do, pa, ta. Goon, doon, go, do, pa. A little faster. Goon, doon, go, do, pa, ta. Goon, doon, go, do, pa, ta. Go, do, pa, ta. Goon, doon, go, do, pa, ta. Go, do, pa, ta. Go, do, pa, ta. Oh, I know that's too fast. I'm just teasing. So when we learn the rhythms, then a lot of the times we turn them into a song. Now, if you are traveling to West Africa, a lot of the times you're going to be greeted with a welcoming song. Everybody say, Funga! Funga means welcome. Now, the second word you'll hear me sing is Alafia. Alafia means happiness or family. And then the last part is Ashe, Ashe. It means everything around us. And so if you arrived in a West African village, you would hear this song. Fanga Alafia, Ashe, Ashe. Fanga Alafia, Ashe, Ashe. Fanga Alafia, Ashe, Ashe. Try it with me. Go. Ba. One, two, 1, 2, sing with me. Banga Lafia, Ashe, Ashe. Banga Lafia, Ashe, Ashe. Banga Lafia, Ashe, Ashe. Banga Lafia, Ashe, Ashe. All right. So now I want to move to a couple other places in the world, and then let's get to the instruments. Now, if we move from Africa up into Asia, then we're going to run across a lot of instruments in the cymbal family. Do you know what this instrument's called? A gong. Now, this didn't start out as a musical instrument. What do you think the armies used this for? A shield, right, to block swords and arrows and spears. Well, one day there was a small army that was hiding in the edge of the forest, and they were getting ready to be attacked by a much bigger army, and they thought, there's no way we can beat that army. They're going to wipe us out. And they thought, what are we going to do? And they thought, we're going to make enough noise to where they think that we're a bigger army than they are, and then they're going to be scared to fight us. And so let's see if we can do that, and it works. They took their sword and their shield, and they started banging their sword on their shield like this. Now I need some help. On the count of 3, I want you to make as much noise as you possibly can. 1, 2, 3! My goodness, that's louder than the drums that we're going to play in a little bit. So this instrument was not always used in battle, but the Turkish army, they would march into battle through the desert, kicking up the sand, and it would create a huge dust cloud. And they had these big drums that they would strap onto the side of elephants. And so the other army would be waiting in the desert, ready for battle, and they would hear this coming. As it got closer, it would get louder. Now, they couldn't see an army marching. There was just a huge dust cloud and these big footsteps. And they thought, I don't know what that is in that dust cloud, but it doesn't sound like any army we've ever heard. What does it sound like to you? A monster, a giant, whatever it is, it sounded really big. And so the other army would run away. And so they would win the battle with just musical instruments. Now, throughout history, now where did I learn about all this? In the library, reading and researching about how these instruments were developed. Back to this instrument, these two gongs used together. I learned an exercise by some Tibetan monks that helps me focus. Now, how many people in here have ever been nervous? Like you're getting ready to take a big test, or maybe you're getting ready to play a sports game, and so everybody gets nervous from time to time. And you might not have two gongs in your pocket, but you can still take a few deep breaths, and it'll help you relax, and it'll help you focus. And so what I want you to do is the Tibetan monks would say, take a deep breath in through your nose, hold it, clear your thoughts, and then let it out. Try it again. In through your nose, hold it, and out through your mouth. One more. I don't know about you, but I feel a lot more relaxed and focused. I can feel it come across the room. How many people in here feel more relaxed? Yeah? Okay. Now, it's time to fix that. And it's time to go to some louder instruments. Now, as I travel across many different places, a lot of the times found instruments that weren't really instruments to begin with. Some of them I found in a kitchen. But this isn't a normal salt shaker. I took the lid off and I tried putting other types of material in. Sometimes plastic beads, sometimes rice or beans, or metal balls, marbles, anything I could find. And I used to do that with my leftover Easter eggs and any type of container that I could find. And then sometimes for cymbals, guess what I use? What are these? Cooking pot lids. And so you can take these off and you just find some that sound good. How do you know when they sound good? Well, you find a sound that you like. And if you don't like the sound, then it probably doesn't sound good. So with percussion, it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be fun. And it has to be a sound that you've heard before. Now, what does this look like? A cheese grater. I really like spaghetti, so I need a cheese grater this big for my Parmesan cheese. No, I'm teasing. This is actually an instrument called a huira from Puerto Rico. And they use this with a brush or a pick, and they scrape it. That's a cha-cha-cha rhythm from Cuba, or they use for the merengue. It's not a real pretty sound, but it fits into the rhythm. Now, some of the instruments that you're going to recognize are very familiar. What is this? A cowbell. Now, can you imagine the percussionist that was walking through the country one day and he heard, oh, I love the sound of that new percussion instrument. Can you imagine this percussionist chasing that cow and trying to get the cowbell off of the cow to use in his percussion setup? Now, when we play the cowbell, I have a box of bells over here of all different sizes. But I need you to be careful with these, because this is for your safety and the safety of my instruments, in that now we don't have the striker. See, this one doesn't shake anymore. So now what you want to do, I want you to pretend with me. Hold the hand out flat that you don't write with, and we're going to set the bell on top like this. And then when you hold a stick, no matter whether you're playing the cowbells or a triangle or some other type of drum with a stick, you're going to pinch the stick between your first finger and your thumb like this, and then let it extend from your arm and wrap your fingers around. Hold on to it tight so it doesn't fly out of your hand. And then play with the tip of the stick on top. You don't have to play on the edge or it's too loud. So the tip of the stick on top like that. And then make sure you're holding the stick like this. Don't hold it like a pencil or like a caveman, or I've seen some strange ways to play cowbell. So make sure you're playing it like this. There's also There's some plastic blocks that are the same way. And then there's some double bells that for some of the things that we do, we might play them like this. But most of the time we're going to play with the tip of the stick on top like this. And these are very thin, so you don't have to play the bells very hard, okay? Now, we also have some pots and pans if you want to be adventurous over there. I have some hand drums here and in the back of the room. Everybody glance over their shoulder real quick. See all those tall hand drums in the back of the room? So why do you think they call all of these hand drums? What do we use on them? Just our hands. Does that mean that we can ever use sticks on them? No, no sticks on these drums, okay? Now, these drums are sort of in between. We call these circle drums for an obvious reason. And we can play them several ways. Sometimes we can use the rubber ball, the rubber mallet, but we have to hold them by the frame, okay? We can't set them on the floor or they don't make a sound, or you can't put them on your lap. So if you play one of these, you have to hold them up by the frame, and then you can play it like that. Now there's all different sizes, and every size is going to sound a little bit different. So you might want a medium one, and with this one, you could even use your hand to press against the back. So you can make all different types of sounds with those. If you wanted to make them a little bit louder, then make sure you pick a stick that doesn't have the rubber ball on it, okay? And that way it makes a brighter sound. Okay, then we have our shaker and jingle family. Some people like to play small shakers. Now, I call this section my icing on the cake. What does icing do for a cake? Makes it taste good. Yeah, it makes it yummy. And so, without the shaker and the jingle section, the rhythms just don't sound as good. They don't sound as yummy. And so, these are very important. But they're also very hard to control. So, if you're playing a shaker or a tambourine, then in a second, when we stop together, and if you're still doing this, it's not going to sound good. And so you have to keep your instrument in control. And so in a second, I'm going to ask you to clap your hands with me in a group of rhythms, and you'll have to stop these instruments. You'll have to play it down and let it stop at the bottom and hold it real still. If you're moving it around, it's not going to sound like we're playing together. And remember the Amira? We don't want to play with just one percussion voice or play our own voice all the time. We want everybody to work together as a team, okay? Can we work together as a team? Yeah! Okay, I want to see if you can prove it to me. I'm going to play this drum from Brazil. Actually, I'm going to play it on the djembe. I think you guys like this one. So, the djembe is going to give you a signal in the same way. How do you know someone's calling you on the telephone? It rings. That's the signal. Or it vibrates. Or these days we have all different types of ringtones. But if you didn't get some sort of signal, then you wouldn't know that somebody is calling you, would you? So my signal is going to sound like this. Now you don't have to do anything there, but the signal tells us where to play. This is going to let us stop and start together. And so what I want to do is see if everybody can clap their hands with me just one time when I do. Now don't clap until I do, but see if you can pretend like your hands are my hands, and when I clap you do. One time, right here. Wow, that was good. Do it one more time. One time, right here. Wow, even better. Can we do 2 times? Let's go. 1, 2. 1, 2. Oh, you learned so quick. Listen to the way I say the numbers. Now I'm going to challenge you with 3 because I'm going to go twice as fast. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That was not hard enough for you. Let's do 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you want a challenge? Can we do 5? But I'm going to go twice as fast again. Listen to the way I say it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, that's still too easy for you. Okay, I think I've got a challenge. Everybody hold up one group of 5. Hold up another group of 5. How much is that? 10. But when we learned to multiply, we added groups. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ready? So I'm going to say 5 times 2 and we play. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's still too easy. Everybody hold up one group of 5. Another group of 5. Another group of 5. How many is that? 15. 5 times 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow! I want you to give yourselves a very quiet round of applause. We're going to call that a rumble. And in a second, when you get your instruments, as I start to raise my hands, I want you to give a bigger applause. Let it go a little bit louder. A little bit louder. A little bit louder. Hey! When my hands start to come back down, they're going to get quiet again. Good. Okay. Now, I am ready to get to some instruments. I think this is enough of our musical journey around the world. But when we get the instruments, you can try them out a little bit, but I'm going to have to get your attention right after that. Okay, so make sure that you always keep your eyes and ears on me, and that way we can work together as a group. Now, I need to pick a couple of special people for certain instruments first. Oh, guys, I can't pick by hands. I'm going to give you a rhythm test. Now, what I want to do is see if I can teach you a rhythm from the Middle East, okay? This rhythm is called Ayu, and it goes like this. Are you ready? When I learned it, it goes... Okay, who got it? Wow! Right. You're going on the road with me. Right. Good job. So, no, I'm just teasing. I didn't learn it that fast. We learned it in pieces, just like everything else. So here's the first part. Everybody say, doom taka doom te. Doom taka doom te. Doom taka doom te. Now, let's do it body percussion. Some people even made up their own body percussion. Take the hand that you write with, put that on your belly. Take the hand that you don't write with and put that on your head. Now with your extra 2 hands, we're going to clap. Okay, ready? Doom taka doom. What? Y'all don't have extra 2 hands? No, I'm just teasing, I know. I think we can still fit it in with just 1 pair. Ready? Doom taka doom te. 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 Oh my goodness. That's too hard to pick, so I'm going to do one more test to pick my 2 people. Let's see. I'm going to use Fanga to put your hands back in that position. And the first half of our rhythm goes like this. So you go. Remember the African sounds? So you keep it going. I'm looking, who's got it? Okay, now I want you two to be very careful. In the multicolored, the pink and the peach shirt, and in the red shirt right there. Can you work your ways up to behind these bass drums? Okay. Everybody else, listen closely to directions so that nobody gets hurt in getting their instruments. Remember the way that I showed you to play them. The most important thing is don't go overboard, because you might accidentally hit somebody with the stick, or you might actually hurt the instrument too. So make sure that you play lightly. With this many people in the room, we need to keep the volume down, okay? So if we see you playing too hard, we're going to have to ask you to stop playing. And you don't want that. Everybody wants to play, right? Now, how come when I asked if everybody wants to play before you went, yeah! And then I ask you to play lightly, you go, yeah. You can add it, you can have excitement without playing too hard. And so I know that sounds strange, but trust me, when we all get our instruments, it's going to be exciting. Now, I'm going to assign certain grade levels to certain instruments. I'm going to start, let's see, where are our seniors at? The 5th graders. If you're in 5th grade, raise your hand. Okay? Are you really in 5th grade? How many years have you been in 5th grade? 4 years? Wow. Okay, now seriously, 5th graders, I'm going to allow you to pick first. So I'll let you two go ahead and go to these drums. What I'd like for you to do is pick out a hand drum on the back, okay? So I'll let you make your way. 5th graders, go ahead and make your way to the hand drums at the back. And, okay, how many 4th graders do I have? Okay. 4th graders, you're going to help us hold on to some of these bass rhythms. And so what I want you to do is make your way to the front and pick up one of the circle drums. Okay? How many 3rd graders do I have? 3rd graders? 3rd grade? 3rd graders, come over here to the triangles and the cowbells. Okay. 2nd grade. Okay, 2nd grade, you're going to select one of these hand drums, but I want you to take it back to the back of the room with the other hand drums, okay? So once you select it, paddle drums will stay at the front, by the way. Okay. Let me see. I've still got a lot left. 1st grade. Raise your hand if you're in 1st grade. Okay. 1st grade, I want you to pick out a jingle instrument. Okay, pick out a jingle instrument. Okay, kindergarten. How many people are in kindergarten? Okay. I've got a lot more in kindergarten. Let's see. We're going to do shakers and jingles. So all the kindergartens, let's do it this way. Kindergarten. 1st grade. I need all instruments still. Let us arrange the groups, and that way we can play. Rocks and bells, right here. Shakers and jingles need to be on the far side of the room. Any hand drums need to be in the back of the room. Need to be in the back of the room. Okay, we have to stay in groups, guys, so you can step off of the stage. Okay. Need to step back. I'm going to bump into you. We're going to work together as a team. So when I play, one time, right? So everybody sing. Listen, only one. together. Somebody tell me their favorite book. Wait, I can't hear. Say it really loud. The Cat in the Hat? Okay. Let's have this group play that rhythm. The Cat in the Hat. Okay, somebody give me another favorite book. What's the favorite book over here? After that. What's your favorite book? Tell me. I can't hear. Yes. What? 3, 4. Oh, green eggs in ham. Okay. Green eggs in ham. Just this group. Green eggs in ham. Okay. Can somebody shout a vote from the back? Really loud. Just in the beat. Hey guys, I can't hear. All I heard was London Bridges. Oh, gotcha! I like that. That's how loud you have to be today. Cloudy with the chance of heat. The Cat in the Hat. Cloudy with the chance of heat. Green eggs and ham. Okay, let's see if we can put all these together. I've never tried this before, so I don't know how this is going to work. Let's start with the meatballs. So, cloudy with the chance of meatballs. Wait. This is only for the back group. The shaker group are going to do one rhythm. You're going to do the Cat in the Hat, cloudy with the chance of meatballs. Ready? Cloudy with the chance of meatballs. Cloudy with the chance of meatballs. Keep going. Cloudy with the chance of meatballs. The Cat in the Hat. Our last place. Well, let's do one more. We've still got some time. Are you having fun? Let's have some more fun. There's a rhythm in the Caribbean that's called calypso. So what I'm going to do is everybody play together. Say, play calypso, play calypso, play calypso. I brought this rhythm in. I don't think you guys can hear me. I was saying, we can play where? In the sand and sun. That's what I think about when I think about the Caribbean islands. Is I think about going on vacation and getting to play in the sand and sun. Let me hear just this rhythm play. We can play where? In the sand and sun. We can play where? In the sand and sun. We can play where? In the sand and sun. We can play. Everybody else? The rhythm is called samba, and this rhythm is from Brazil. Now, everybody in the back, I want you to play. When we play it, and then both front groups are going to go samba. Go. When we play it, samba. When we play it, samba. When we play it, samba. Listen close, and my rhythm goes stop, 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 stop. Stop, 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 stop.
She was a cool person. She really was. You know what? I mean,
America.
Yeah.
We got a translator.
Yeah.
I know enough to get around.
Yeah, we're leaving.
Bogota.
Okay. Nice meeting you. Thank you. Oh, that one was great.
I found that actually originally in Peru.
Yeah. Very nice. That's a good thing. What happened? We were just talking about that. It has been so wonderful just to hear you play a little more, and because you're really good at it.
That's what they,
You are really good.
We thought about just having a performance.
Yes, a performance.
And I wanted to, I wanted the kids to.
No, it is. Yeah, it was great. It was great for them to learn a little bit about the instruments also.
Okay. You know, I had seen this, but I was thinking it was something to do with the lighting and the other side.
How are you? Okay. Are you the fella that did get to play an instrument? Did you come in late or just didn't get up to one? Would you like to play one now? Would you like to play a special? Come sit on top of it. Say it in the middle.
He wants to try that. He wants to come in and just try something. I didn't think he would allow it.
Yeah. Very good.
Thank you, sir.
You're
Bye-bye.
welcome.
He got so jazzed.
Oh, yeah. I'll take one of the shakers.
Take one to Stuart since
Okay. He'll be very excited about the shakers.
jelly.